Plot thickens. It's September 17th, Saturday, 7:37 p.m. And there isn't a day that goes by that isn't filled with astounding things, blowing to pieces this fantasy world reality I used to live in and used to think was real. You know, the news media, the people around me, the fantasy island America, where people just believe whatever is on TV. They just believe, they say they don't believe, but that's all they believe. They never see anything from another source, like halfway around the world. They listen to African news or listen to Israeli news or listening to Australian news or listening to the people inside, the independent people inside those different countries. That's how I'm learning so much is people that are right in the middle of the battle and wherever it is, rather than this bizarre simulacra, as the postmodernists call it, a virtual reality universe. Anyway, without any more ado, this just occurred to me when I was putting things together. This is President Biden to Vladimir Putin on the threat of nuclear war, recorded on 60 Minutes. But since I don't have a TV, everything's always spliced, so it's a 48-second clip. Complete insanity. Here it is.
As Ukraine succeeds on the battlefield, Vladimir Putin is becoming embarrassed and pushed into a corner. And I wonder, Mr. President, what you would say to him if he is considering using chemical or tactical nuclear weapons.
Okay, just to point out, this question is moronic, it's completely idiotic. Vladimir Putin isn't embarrassed, he's on the run, there's no counteroffensive. The counteroffensive is stalled out. Ukraine is not being supported by anybody. They know enough. Germany, France, nobody's sending weapons to, it's the US and sending weapons and attacking nuclear power stations, reactor in Crimea. It's a wide front that is stalled out, that did nothing. They took back a section of Kharkiv, this territory that the Russians let them have because they were moving to encircle Bakhmut, which is to entrap a large Ukrainian force. Meanwhile, Vladimir Putin isn't even, has more things on his mind than listening to a vegetable on 60 Minutes and some idiot who has a script that's talking about him ready to use nuclear weapons. He's at a summit. He's been at a summit with China, with Iran, with Turkey, okay, with India, putting together a trading bloc. This is a alliance with their own currency system, with their own credit cards. We put this imbecile administration and their war planners and everything else. Excuse me for, being blunt, but what they've done, they destroyed the NATO alliance. Germany and France don't want anything to do with any alliance led by cabbage heads. Not just Biden isn't even cognizant. He doesn't know when his ice cream truck is going to arrive. He falls off his bicycle. So they show a little news clip like this with an absurd setup with it's beyond fake news. There's no there's no battlefield. All you do is show the destruction of Russian missiles. You don't show what is going on is that, because I heard, how do I know this? Because Putin is addressing world leaders in Uzbekistan. All the Americans, Putin's a tyrant, he's evil. They don't think he's evil. What we think in America is not what the rest of the world thinks. Maybe this comes as a completely shocking bit of news to people playing their rock and roll guitars and dropping their acid and saying, yeah, we got to get rid of the evil dictator. I'm sure this would be a complete shock, but people in Nicaragua don't, Daniel Ortega, who's hosting Russian missiles and troops, doesn't look at Vladimir Putin as a tyrant. They look at Bernie Sanders, who's pro-Sandinista. They look at him as a tyrant. I mean, this is like the most unbelievable, surreal dream sequence of senile. It's people who have lived in a fantasy world unlike anything that anybody in the world has ever lived in while running a country, a nuclear armed country, and thinking they can just dictate, oh, we're going to destroy Saddam Hussein, and now we're going to destroy Bashar al-Assad, and now we'll bump off Muammar Gaddafi, and now we'll take out Noriega, and we'll invade the heroic invasion of Grenada, and we'll go into the Bay of Pigs, and this is a CIA. They're taking their LSD, but they're all sailing their yachts and they're living on multi-million-dollar estates. So this isn't criticism. It's just simply saying, if anybody listening to the news has to be out of their bloody mind to listen to this stuff. I'm just giving the reality of what's going on with world leaders, that all Vladimir Putin had to do was cut off the gas, supply to Germany. Their biggest plant, chemical plant, manufacturing plant, BASF in Germany, that it uses more energy than the entire country of Switzerland. This plant alone they don't have enough gas to keep that plant running. And it supplies like 80% of the chemicals used in automobiles. All of manufacturing throughout Europe is going to shut down. Pharmaceutical drugs and toothpaste and luxury goods and consumer. Everybody, pick up anything that has chemicals in it. Well, they're made in somewhere. They're made in this BASF plant in Europe. And if, Putin doesn't turn the gas back on, that shuts down. Not only that, but he through the winter shuts down. People are going to be freezing in Great Britain. But Joe Biden's here. Well, actually, if you listen to Joe Biden's response. Now, I'm sure that Americans are tuned into this, the ones who are, on their own pharmaceutical medications. Remember, folks, in New York, when you saw your public service announcement, where they told you if a nuclear bomb hits, you get your bug out bag, get to the middle of the room, and then you get your bug. Make sure you have your pharmaceuticals in it. Really have whatever you do, pack that bag full of your meds, because you're really going to need. If you think you're going to survive a nuclear bomb, just keep popping those down when you hear the screaming come across the sky, as Ben Schoen called it, for the V2 rockets that hit London. Anyway, old hippie stuff just floats through my mind. So here's the President Mummystein, or Vegetable Man, the potato head himself.
Don't. It will change the face of war unlike anything since World War II.
And the consequences of that would be what?
I'm
What
not
would the
gonna
U.S.
speculate that.
response be?
Do you think I would tell you if I knew exactly what it would be? Of course I'm not going to tell you.
Yes. What would the U.S. response be if a nuclear bomb hit this egghead moron on 60 Minutes? Gee, what do you think his response would be? I don't think he'd have one. What kind of insane? I used to say this, I don't know, it was 10, 15, 20 years ago, that this really, America is like an open air insane asylum. Everywhere you go, the rock music's playing, outdoor malls. Everybody's completely living in a fantasy world. It's not like one, it is one. That's what changed. I realized, I'm distancing myself from the reality that people are walking around completely divorced from reality. They think you declare war on a nuclear superpower. We declared war not one. North Korea, Iran is arming. And France, guess what? China, sorry. I left out the biggest population in the world, but might slip my mind. What is France doing? Our NATO ally well, they're selling nuclear submarines to Australia. Why are they selling nuclear submarines to Australia? Because Macron was pissed off because they had a deal to sell these nuclear subs to Australia with the last government, and the Biden administration canceled it. And England, so they're going to supply the nuclear subs. Well, they aren't doing so well. They aren't getting their nuclear subs. So little Napoleon himself is now has a contract. So what about our allies now? Germany is just their own little Ursula von Leyen, whatever her dictator of the world. She goes and has a meeting with Zelensky and says, "We support you. We'll support you to the very end." Weapons, sorry, we need those weapons, because we're actually putting troops out on the street. October 1st, what are we, September 17th, the German army is going to be patrolling the streets of Germany with their police force. So, hey, here they are, goose stepping along. Zelensky, I see this on Jimmy Dore, this full comedian. It's everything's funny. Zelensky, and I don't watch him, I just see the headlines. Zelensky, one of his bodyguards has a Nazi insignia. He must have forgotten to take it off. The Azov battalion are Nazis. No, the media isn't, it's only been reported for, I don't know, a decade, but the media just leaves out all this critical information, like who are the Nazis? Well, the Nazis are fighting the communists, who are the capitalists, who are the fascists. Oh no, Donald Trump's the fascist, and my head's spinning. Just forget about the names. Look at the power alliance. Look at the fact that the railroad strike is solved. Hooray, hooray, hooray. What are they going to be transporting? The goods from China. Well, we're at war with China. There's only 12 ships left in the harbor in Los Angeles. So 80% of our goods come from overseas, like China, the Walmarts, but nobody's buying them anyway because they can't afford them. And we're looking at whether we're going to have food. And this retard, sorry for the PC incorrect word, but that's when I was a kid. That's what we always said. Why did the little moron throw the clock out the window? He wanted to see time fly. It's a common joke. We're morons. Martin Amis, anybody ever hear of him? Kingsley Amis, son of Kingsley Amis, who wrote Lucky Jim. And Moronic Inferno was written by Kingsley Amis. Who was that about? It was about Americans. Well, the British all look at the Americans as morons. We look at the British as morons. So who are the morons? Well, I'd say there's plenty to go around. I'd say the Germans were morons. The WEF are morons. They're the ones who went to war with the only energy supply in Western Europe. So, this evil tyrant, finally he's say, okay, well, if you want to go to war, I guess I'll turn off the energy then. What are we going to do? This evil tyrant, yeah, we'll drop, and he's going to use nukes. Yeah, when you go to war, the other side uses their weapons. What do you think? And what Biden's got a secret plan though. If he could, this will change the face of battle. Since World War II, nobody used it. Oh, gee, you ever hear of Hiroshima, Joe, and ring a bell? Use nuclear weapons. Who would use nuclear? What kind of maniac would use nuclear weapons? Besides Harry Truman, 33-degree Freemason, incidentally, who also went into the Middle East, and the Koreas. We are the empire of all empires, and a lot of people living under, including the people in this country. I'm watching the Black National Socialist, Communist Black Panther Party. They've been broken into by the FBI, and they're saying this is a legal government. we're in arms and we're going to overthrow the government. They were out in the street, blowing up the Molotov cocktails and all that. But it's called the far left, and we're the colonial superpower that the far left is overthrowing. And like Marx said, capitalism is going to die from its internal contradictions, and then the dictatorship of the proletariat will follow along. Anyway, that's not the subject of today's special news report. The subject, I'll just paddle along here through, because what I was wanting to say was that how things come to me is I hear a prophet I listen to, prophetess, and she's reporting on things that are going around in the underground, in the spiritual battle between God and Satan, and all the sex slave trafficking and all this horror show that's, Aleister Crowley is his Holy Crowley, is Holy Moly, as his name is pronounced. But I like Crowley. I've always said Crowley. The Led Zeppelin, the Motley Crue, Satanism, and the Children of Cain, Bono, and whatnot. The ones who were on the side of Zelensky, as it turns out. And I go through the comments underneath this stimulating ideas discussion with 60 Minutes. They just, boy, if that isn't the intellectual peak of New York genius, journalism award, they should really get the Pulitzer for this interview. Let's see. And Bob Dylan has his, what's it called? Oh yeah, the Nobel Prize for Literature. He's only written one book. If anybody has read that, I'd like to meet them. I got through about 2 pages. And that was I was on LSD. Like everybody else. The music, if you're on LSD, it makes a lot of sense, but if you're not, it kind of loses its charm. So this comment is, somebody likes presidents that don't take showers with their daughter. And I thought, what the heck? Who said, huh? Presidents that don't take a shower with their daughter. What does that have to do with anything? Oh yeah, well, Celestial, the prophet, said it will be revealed. This is from a while back, that Biden is a pedophile. And then I thought, well, I'll go to, I'm out of it. I don't follow personality stuff. I didn't even know Biden has a daughter or daughters or whatever. I don't follow the gossip stuff. I really don't. I don't follow the personalities. I follow the history. I'll read about Stalin and Hitler, the people that made history, not these goofballs. The Nancy Pelosi's, who cares? Oh yeah, I know she has a husband because he's driving a Porsche and drunk into a whatever shopping mall, I guess. Is there going to be any investigation, anything like that? Of course not. No more than the investigation into Hunter Biden. Eventually it'll come around, after we get through with World War III and nuclear war. Then maybe it's called wag the dog. They just keep, one crisis follows another crisis. And meanwhile, everybody just stays doped up, as if nothing is happening. I can't imagine, because of this cyber virtual reality, like people in World War II, when Hitler breaks out, the full-on attacks all through Europe, that people would be sitting around on their things saying, oh, he's evil. if he says anything, I have a secret plan to nuke. If he does any, is anybody going off to war? In World War II, we started manufacturing. We started recruiting. People were running, getting in uniforms. We're going to have a war. This is like, hey, Zelensky's got it under control, or we'll get somebody. Poland. Well, they've all, Hungary's not. They've pulled out of the EU. These countries, Hungary, Poland, anybody heard of them? The former Soviet Union. They'd rather be with Russia than go to war against them. It's just like having a certain amount of common sense would really help. So what I do is go off and do a little search on Joe Biden's. He's got a daughter named Ashley Biden, right? And he's got a little diary that was found a couple years ago, and then the FBI and the news media buried it and said, "Oh, it's false information. It's not real." Just like Hunter Biden's laptop, there's nothing real about it. Oh, and these scurrilous people were trying to sell the diary, and it's a diary that came from her rehab, and then the news on it has to do with President Joe. So I'll just hear
Joe
this.
Biden's daughter, Ashley, and her diary. Now, this is a fascinating story, which includes some fairly confronting details, James.
Yeah, so, this diary has been kicking around for a bit, and there were, again, as with the Hunter Biden laptop, questions about its authenticity. It seems
So where did it come from?
Well, it seems to have been left behind by Ashley in a rehab facility.
Yeah.
And then somebody
the
else.
Bidens and
like
rehab.
Joe,
Where would
they
rehab
leave
facilities be without
Exactly
the Bidens
right.
to keep them in business? My
Take that
goodness.
Betty Ford, but
Where would the rehab facilities be without the Bidens or the Betty Ford or the Liz Taylors? Or everybody's in drug rehab. They're not crazy though. Hunter's is just as, and Joe, there are, like somebody said, Joe's dependent on Hunter to give him his 10% cut. Anybody know what I'm talking about? This is disturbing to me. I don't know why everybody's so.
But in this diary, where she's talking about things, and this was allegedly taken by somebody else who had been a patient there and removed it. The FBI got involved over what was apparently a case of mislaid property, but it contains some fairly disturbing things, including her talk about inappropriate showers with her father, Joe, when she was a little girl. And yet somehow this is all being very, very,
But she
very
actually
suppressed.
says something along the lines of, "I'm not sure if I was
Yeah.
molested or not."
There's-
This is in a diary she wrote.
In a rehab facility, and
she wasn't being asked about
no.
this.
So, and it's been now the news this week though is that it has been authenticated as actually the true diary, just as the Hunter Biden laptop has finally been authenticated as true, and yet.
Okay, it's all true. I mean, this was even out when Kamala Harris was an opponent of Joe Biden's. What was the word she used for Joe? I mean, Trump called him Sleepy Joe. Kamala's calling him Creepy Joe. Why is Creepy Joe? Because he's got his hands. There's pictures of him fondling women and fondling their hair. And everybody who has eyes to see and knows what they're looking at, when there's a older, that's inappropriate touching and feeling of 11-year-old, or taking a shower with your 11-year-old daughter. That's beyond creepy. And he was also a segregation. He's also a pathological liar. He plagiarized Neil Kinnock's speech. He said he had college degrees. He did legal degrees where he graduated in his class. The guy is a pathological liar, just like the rest of them. And that is a characteristic of people who have mental illness and are sex offenders, and it all goes back to the demonic. It goes back to Aleister Crowley. It goes back to all this child porn of Jeffrey Epstein and Harvey Weinstein and Epstein Ranch and Clinton and Bill Gates and Woody Allen and Roman Polanski and Kenneth Anger's films and Bobby Beausoleil, the Manson murder, and it is not going any away. As far as I'm concerned, I'm going to just keep reporting on it and reporting on it and reporting on the truth, because it's irrelevant that Satan is walking tall all up and down the halls of Congress and all up through the White House and all. We're going into a complete collapse, economic, financial, food shortages, starvation. Oh, the crazy preppers, the crazy doomsayers, the doomsayers. Yeah, why don't you take a look at some videos from financial advisors who are watching the cardiac arrest that, in resuscitation on Wall Street by the Fed injecting their fake money. It's in real danger. That the only thing we have going for ourselves is that we're the reserve currency. Well, they have got their own currency. They're trading rupees, and that's the latest thing yesterday. The rupees and rubles, Russian rubles they're linking their currency systems and charge cards. We cut off all of Russian credit cards. That really damaged them until they got on the ball and immediately, they've got some smart cookies in Russia, unlike us. They've got smart cookies enough to create their own charge cards and get those produced and make all of these linkages it's like this is a Jerry. They used to, back when Reagan defeated the Soviet Union, they were geriatrics. They'd been in the Politburo all their lives, the Brezhnevs, and Gorbachev was the new kid on the block, and Reagan made the deal with them and got rid of the senile, demented kid. We've got the senile, demented kid. Nobody seems to notice that Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, anybody know her? From California, woman senator, a military appropriation, multimillionaire with all her and her husband's military contracts. Yeah, war is profitable if you're an inside trader. So, and a traitor in the case of Biden and his sons, with access to the White House. They're buying his NFTs. Yeah, he's a digital artist, very famous. He sells them for $150,000 a piece or something. I don't know. I'm making the figure up off the top of my head because it doesn't matter. But he's on the payroll of Ukraine oil companies, Burisma. So, gee, I wonder what that deal was about. Or how about China? When are we going to get a news media in this country? I don't know. So I guess all the little people with their little home YouTube videos like myself just hint, look. All I had to do was Google Ashley Biden and who I'd never heard of. But it's like seeing little bits of information here and there and connecting the dots and I didn't know who Motley Crue was. I'm doing a video on Motley Crue. I mean, I knew they were death metal band. I didn't know they were with Anton LaVey, the Church of Satan, doing satanic ceremonies behind the Whiskey A Go-Go, which is where Jim Morrison on the Doors famously got kicked out. Back then, like talking about killing your father and raping your mother. That was going a little, bridge too far for the staid society of California in the mid 60s, but you just keep breaking the taboos. So pretty soon you have multiple alien sex beings and hybrids and Nephilim and whatever. And there's no, there's no debauchery, there's no depravity, there's no Antichrist, no such thing as Antichrist coming. Well, look up, look all around. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. I have a bad feeling about what's coming to this country. And I'm just trying to alert people on a spiritual level, because, get some food together. But look, if where these people are taking us and where it is, they're not taking us. Where people are running out to the polls to or getting their guns. Annie, get through your gun and go out and blast away at a statue of George Washington or something. Thomas Jefferson. Yeah, they were Freemasons. That's the story that goes back in history, that goes back to ancient Egypt. So they're no different than all these Egypt obsessed tarot card readers and divining and witches and warlocks and Wiccans and it's paganism. So it's the pagan reality underlying the world, which is the kingdom of Satan. Now you can do one thing. There's two paths you can go by, but in the long run, it makes the difference whether you're on the broad path or you're on the narrow path. And the narrow path is like it's like a razor's edge. Now, you're surrounded by this rising, as Kenneth Anger's film is, Lucifer Rising, that they're conjuring demons. Motley Crue was behind the Whiskey A Go-Go and satanic ceremonies with up-and-coming actresses and Anton LaVey and conjuring demons who would guide their music and give them all of this power and this great death metal. Don't know what it sounds like. Don't know who they are. Nikki Sixx. I read it in a, it's a real easy Google thing. It's in the Sun. And is it true? Yeah, it's all true. Of course it's true. It was an interview with the limousine driver who drove him around. Oh, he's lying. He was just one of the limo drivers. Yeah, well, how come he has the photographs then? And how come the stories he tells are exactly accurate about who Anton LaVey is and what a satanic ceremony is and where this house, all of this stuff is not conspiracy theory. It's conspiracy fact. God bless everyone. I'm at 33 minutes. 333. Double that at 666. Amen.